Operation Mincemeat, the dead man who won the war. It was the winter of 1943. The world was drowning in war. From the frozen trenches of Stalingrad to the burning sands of North Africa, from the jungles of the Pacific to the submarine-hunted waters of the Atlantic, the Second World War had consumed everything. 50 million souls would perish before it ended. Armies clashed across continents. Cities burned. Governments trembled. Families shattered. And in the heart of London, beneath the scarred streets and the rubble of the Blitz, deep inside a sealed basement in Whitehall, far from the roar of bombs and the cries of dying soldiers, a handful of men and women were planning something so secret, so unbelievable, so utterly insane, that the world wouldn't learn about it for decades. They called it Operation Mincemeat. The most astonishing deception ever attempted in World War II. A plan so daring, so absurd, yet so brilliant, that it fooled Adolf Hitler himself. And changed the course of history. To understand why they did what they did, we need to go back. Back to a moment when the Allies were losing. By 1943, Hitler controlled nearly all of Europe. From the Atlantic coast of France to the gates of Moscow. From Norway's frozen fjords to the deserts of Libya. The Nazi war machine seemed unstoppable. Britain had survived, barely. The Soviet Union was bleeding but fighting. America had entered the war. But none of that mattered unless they could do one thing: invade Nazi-occupied Europe. Without that, Hitler would hold his fortress indefinitely. Without that, the war would drag on for years. Without that, millions more would die. Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt met in Casablanca in January 1943. They made a decision: the Allies would invade Europe from the south. Through Italy. The soft underbelly of the Axis powers, Churchill called it. But there was one catastrophic problem. How do you invade a continent when the enemy controls every coastline, every fortification, every possible landing zone? The Allies needed a foothold. Somewhere they could land troops safely. Somewhere unexpected. Their choice: Sicily. The island of Sicily. Floating in the Mediterranean like a stepping stone between Africa and mainland Italy. Perfect location. Strategic position. Gateway into Europe. But the Germans knew this too. Field Marshal Albert Kesselring had fortified the island. German and Italian divisions were already there, waiting. Gun emplacements lined the beaches. Aircraft patrolled the skies. British intelligence estimated that a direct invasion of Sicily would cost tens of thousands of Allied lives in the first 48 hours alone. The beaches would turn into a slaughterhouse. Unless they could make Hitler believe the Allies were planning to invade somewhere else. But how? How do you deceive the most paranoid dictator in history? A man surrounded by spies, code breakers, and intelligence agencies? A man who trusted no one? The answer came from the most unlikely place: a work of fiction. In 1939, before the war even began, British naval intelligence officer Ian Fleming, yes, that Ian Fleming, who would later create James Bond, wrote a memo. A memo titled Trout Memo. It contained 51 ideas for deceiving the enemy. Most were practical. Some were creative. One was completely insane. Idea number 28, a corpse dressed as an airman, with dispatches in his pockets, could be dropped on the coast, supposedly from a parachute that has failed. Plant fake documents on a dead body. Let the enemy find it. Make them believe intelligence they were never supposed to see. For 4 years, this idea sat in a filing cabinet. Forgotten. Until two men pulled it out and decided to make it real. Flight Lieutenant Charles Chumley. An IAF officer. Brilliant, eccentric, obsessive about details. Lieutenant Commander Ewan Montague. A naval intelligence officer. A peacetime lawyer. A Jewish intellectual who understood how minds worked. These two men, working in a damp basement office in the Admiralty, became the architects of the most elaborate lie ever told. The plan: take a dead body. Dress him as a Royal Marine officer. Give him fake top-secret documents suggesting the Allies would invade Greece and Sardinia, not Sicily. Put the body in the water off the coast of Spain. Let Spanish authorities find him. Let them pass the documents to German intelligence. If the Germans believed it, they would move their troops away from Sicily. And the invasion would succeed. It was brilliant. It was insane. It was borderline impossible. Because for this to work, everything had to be perfect. You can't just throw a body into the ocean with some documents and hope for the best. The Germans weren't idiots. They had experts. Forensic pathologists. Intelligence analysts trained to spot forgeries. If anything seemed wrong, if the body looked too old, if the documents seemed planted, if the story didn't add up, the entire operation would collapse. Worse, the Germans would know the Allies were trying to deceive them. They'd reinforce Sicily even more. So Cholmondeley and Montagu became obsessed. They had to create a human being. Not just a body. Not just a name. But a life. Someone real enough to fool the entire Nazi intelligence network. Step 1, the body. They needed a corpse. Not just any corpse. It had to be a man. Young enough to be an officer. Dead recently enough that decomposition wouldn't be too advanced. But here's the problem. You can't just take a body from a morgue without permission. Even in wartime, there are laws. Ethics. Montagu consulted Sir Bernard Spilsbury, the most famous forensic pathologist in Britain. Spilsbury said the body would have to look like it drowned. But most drowning victims show obvious signs: water in the lungs, specific tissue damage. They couldn't fake that. So they needed someone who died in a way that could plausibly look like drowning. After weeks of searching, they found him. Glyndwr Michael. A 34-year-old homeless man from Wales. No family. No friends. No one to ask questions. He died in January 1943 in an abandoned warehouse in London. Cause of death: poisoning from eating rat poison containing phosphorus. The phosphorus created fluid in his lungs, which could pass for drowning in a cursory autopsy. Montagu obtained permission from the coroner, with the condition that Michael's identity would never be revealed. They had their body. Now they had to give him a life. Step 2, the identity. They named him Major William Martin. Royal Marines. Serial number 148228. Attached to Combined Operations Headquarters. But a name wasn't enough. The Germans would investigate. They'd check records. Cross-reference details. So Cholmondeley and Montagu built an entire existence. They created official military documents. A fake identity card with a real photograph, taken of the corpse while it was still relatively fresh, eyes closed. They invented a fiancée. Her name, Pam. They hired a young woman from MI5 to pose for a photograph. They wrote love letters, passionate, intimate, real. I do think, dearest, that when we do get married, we should go off and not tell anyone where we are. The phone didn't ring once. They planted a receipt from a London jeweler for an engagement ring. They added a theatre ticket stub from April 22, 1943. A bill from his London club. An overdraft notice from Lloyd's Bank for £79. A stern letter from his father about his financial irresponsibility. Keys to his apartment. A worn photo of Pam in his wallet. Every pocket was filled with the debris of a real life. Receipts. Lint. A stub from a pencil. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that screamed, "Look at this." Just life. Because that's what makes a lie believable. Not the big things. The small ones. Step 3, the documents. The documents themselves, the reason for all of this, had to be perfect. They couldn't just be typed on regular paper. They had to look authentic. Official letterheads. Proper signatures. The right kind of wear. 2 letters were prepared. Letter 1, from Lieutenant General Archibald Nye, Vice Chief of the Imperial General Staff, to General Harold Alexander, Commander of British forces in North Africa. It discussed Allied plans to invade Greece and Sardinia, with Sicily mentioned only as a cover story to deceive the Germans. Letter 2, from Lord Louis Mountbatten to Admiral Andrew Cunningham. A casual note about Major Martin, praising him as an expert in landing craft operations. The letters were written on real stationery. Signed with real signatures. Sealed in waterproof pouches. Attached to a briefcase. Chained to Major Martin's wrist. Everything was ready. Except one final, terrible detail. The body was placed in a steel canister. A cylindrical tube. Packed with dry ice to slow decomposition. 4 weeks, Major William Martin was stored in a secret location. Waiting. On April 19, 1943, the canister was loaded onto HMS Seraph, a British submarine. The crew wasn't told what was inside. Only the captain, Lieutenant Bill Joel, knew the truth. The mission: sail to the coast of Spain. Find the exact right location. Release the body. Spain was neutral, officially. But everyone knew Spanish authorities were friendly to the Nazis. Documents found on Spanish soil would almost certainly reach German hands. The submarine crossed the Mediterranean silently. 4 days. Underwater during daylight. Surfaced at night to recharge batteries. The crew went about their duties, never knowing they were carrying the most important corpse of the war. On April 30, 1943, just before dawn, HMS Seraph surfaced near Huelva, Spain. A small fishing town on the southern coast. The water was calm. The sky was black. No moon. Captain Joel and a few trusted officers opened the canister. The smell hit them immediately. Even with dry ice, decomposition had begun. But there was no turning back. They dressed the body in full uniform. Checked every pocket. Made sure the love letters were there. Made sure the briefcase was secured. Made sure the chain was locked to his wrist. Then they carefully lowered Major William Martin into the water. The body floated for a moment, life jacket keeping him on the surface, and then drifted slowly toward the shore. The submarine's engines fired. HMS Seraph descended into the black depths and disappeared. Behind them, in the cold Spanish water, a dead man floated, carrying the most important secret of the war. At 9:30 a.m. on April 30, 1943, a Spanish fisherman named José Antonio Rey Maria spotted something in the water. A body, face down, wearing a British uniform, a briefcase chained to his wrist. He pulled it ashore and alerted authorities. Spanish officials recovered Major Martin. They found his military identification, his love letters, his personal effects, his briefcase containing classified documents. The British embassy in Madrid was notified. The British naval attaché, secretly working for British intelligence, made a formal request for the return of the body and documents. He acted concerned, urgent, desperate to get those documents back. Which, of course, made the Spanish more interested. As expected, Spanish military intelligence photographed every document before returning them to the British. And as expected, they passed the copies to German intelligence. The documents reached Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, head of the Abwehr, German military intelligence. Then they went to Adolf Hitler's desk. Back in London, Cholmondeley and Montagu waited. Sweating. The British had broken German codes, the ultra-secret, so they could read intercepted German communications. They watched. They listened. And then it worked. A decoded message from Berlin, document is genuine. Sardinia and Greece are the targets. Hitler himself sent orders, move the 1st Panzer Division from France to Greece. Send additional forces to Sardinia. Increase naval patrols in the Aegean Sea. Fortify Greek islands. Sicily? Sicily was barely mentioned. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel himself was sent to oversee Greece's defenses. The most elite German units, the forces that could have slaughtered Allied troops on Sicilian beaches, were moved 1,000 miles away. In London, Montagu sent a coded message to Churchill, mincemeat swallowed whole. On July 9, 1943, 160,000 Allied troops launched the invasion of Sicily. Operation Husky. The largest amphibious assault in history up to that point. The beaches were barely defended. German troops were scattered. Confused. Waiting for an attack on Greece that would never come. The Allies landed with far fewer casualties than anyone predicted. Within days, they pushed inland. Within weeks, the island fell. Mussolini's government collapsed. Italy surrendered. The Nazis were forced to retreat north. The door to mainland Europe was open. And it all happened because of a single corpse. A homeless man from Wales. Given a false name. A fake life. A fabricated fiancé. Glyndwr Michael, forever known as Major William Martin, saved tens of thousands of lives. After the war, Ewan Montagu wrote a book called The Man Who Never Was. It became a bestseller. A film was made in 1956. But for decades, the true identity of Major Martin remained classified. Only in 1996 was Glyndwr Michael's name finally revealed. Today, there's a grave in Spain. A memorial to the man who never was. It reads, William Martin. Born the 29th of March 1907. Died the 24th of April 1943. Beneath it, the truth, Glyndwr Michael. Served as Major William Martin, RM. Operation Mincemeat remains one of the greatest deceptions in military history. Not because of advanced technology. Not because of brute force. But because of something simpler. The understanding that the most powerful lies are built from 1,000 tiny truths. A love letter. A theater ticket. A photograph. A debt. The things that make us human. The things that make us real. And in the darkest days of World War II, those tiny truths changed everything.